There's a kind of insect nest that doesn't announce itself at all. No visible hive hanging from a branch, no obvious mound rising from the dirt. It sits hidden underground, sometimes directly beneath a section of lawn mowed every week for years without incident, until one ordinary afternoon, a foot sinks slightly into ground that feels wrong, and within seconds, dozens of insects are pouring out of a hole barely wider than a coin, swarming upward in a coordinated, furious wave. This is one of the most common, dangerous encounters in the United States, and most people never see it coming until they're already standing in the middle of it. This is the YellowJacket, a wasp found virtually everywhere across the United States, from suburban backyards to public parks to the edges of hiking trails. Unlike bees, which are generally docile unless directly threatened, YellowJackets are far more easily provoked, and their nests, often hidden underground in wall cavities or inside fallen logs, can go completely unnoticed until they're disturbed by something as simple as foot traffic, lawn equipment, or a vibration through the ground. What makes the YellowJacket dangerous starts with a piece of anatomy bees don't have: a smooth, unbarbed stinger. A honeybee's stinger is barbed, which means it lodges in skin and tears away from the bee's body after a single use, ultimately costing that bee its life. A YellowJacket stinger has no such barb. It slides in, delivers venom, and slides back out cleanly, which means a single YellowJacket can sting the same person or several different people, multiple times in a row without losing its weapon or its ability to keep attacking. The venom itself works through a combination of compounds designed for rapid, intense effect. It contains histamine, a chemical that triggers the body's inflammatory response directly, along with several enzymes, including one called phospholipase, which breaks down cell membranes at the sting site, causing immediate, significant tissue irritation. Another component acts on pain-sensing nerve fibers directly, which is part of why a YellowJacket sting registers so much faster and more sharply than many people expect from an insect this small. Evolutionarily, this venom was built for exactly the scenario YellowJackets specialize in: rapid, repeated, highly effective colony defense, allowing a relatively small insect to inflict outsized pain efficiently enough to drive off intruders many times its size, whether that intruder is a raccoon raiding a nest or a person who's just stepped too close without realizing it. But the most medically significant danger from YellowJackets has very little to do with the venom's chemistry, and almost everything to do with a separate biological event entirely: allergic sensitization. With every sting an individual experiences, certain immune systems begin building specific antibodies, immune proteins trained to recognize and respond to YellowJacket venom proteins. For most people, this never becomes a problem. But for a meaningful percentage of the population, repeated exposure gradually primes the immune system toward an increasingly severe reaction, until a sting that once caused only local pain can suddenly trigger a full-body emergency. This is why people are sometimes stung dozens of times throughout their life without incident, only to have a single sting one summer afternoon escalate into something far more dangerous than anything they experienced before. The moment the stinger penetrates skin, the sensation is immediate, a sharp, hot, stinging pain that arrives instantly rather than building gradually, frequently described as more intense and more immediate than a typical mosquito or ant bite. Within the first minute, redness and swelling begin spreading outward from the sting site as blood vessels dilate and immune cells rush toward the area, the body treating the venom proteins as an active chemical assault, which biologically it is. For most people, the next several minutes bring a predictable escalation. The burning intensifies. Swelling continues building for 20 to 30 minutes, and the skin around the site becomes tender, warm, and visibly inflamed. Itching often joins the pain as histamine spreads its effects through the surrounding tissue, sometimes making the area feel almost unbearably irritated, even as the sharper pain begins to fade. In most healthy individuals without an allergy, this entire reaction, while miserable, stays contained to the local area and gradually resolves over several hours to a couple of days. But in someone with venom allergy sensitization, the same sting initiates an entirely different, much faster cascade. Within minutes, sometimes only 2 or 3, hives can begin appearing far from the original sting site, spreading across the chest, the back, or the limbs as the immune system's antibody response triggers a massive, body-wide release of histamine and other inflammatory chemicals. The throat or tongue can begin to feel tight or swollen, a sensation some describe as their voice suddenly sounding different even to themselves. Breathing can become noticeably harder as the airways begin narrowing, sometimes accompanied by a tightness in the chest that mimics the feeling of a heavy weight pressing down. Blood pressure can drop rapidly as blood vessels throughout the body dilate all at once, leading to dizziness, lightheadedness, and in severe cases, loss of consciousness. This is anaphylaxis, a true medical emergency, and without immediate treatment, it can progress to the point of being life-threatening within minutes, not hours. Picture someone raking leaves in their own backyard on a cool autumn afternoon, completely unaware that a YellowJacket colony has established itself in a small gap beneath a tree's root system nearby. The vibration of the rake against the ground is enough to trigger a defensive response, and within seconds, several wasps emerge and begin stinging repeatedly, each one capable of striking multiple times in the encounter. What started as a routine chore turns into a frantic retreat toward the house. Several painful stings already delivered before any escape is possible. The kind of ordinary moment that, depending entirely on whether that person carries venom sensitization, could end as nothing more than a bad afternoon or as a genuine emergency. For most stings, treatment is straightforward. Clean the area, apply a cold compress to control swelling, and use over-the-counter antihistamines and pain relievers as needed, with most symptoms resolving within a day or two. For anyone showing signs of an allergic reaction, hives spreading beyond the sting site, throat tightness, or difficulty breathing, the only appropriate response is emergency epinephrine if available and immediate emergency medical care, since anaphylaxis can progress extremely quickly, and waiting it out is never the safe option. There's one more detail about this insect that explains why encounters with it are so much more frequent and so much harder to predict than almost any other stinging insect in the country. Here's the detail many people overlook. YellowJacket colonies, unlike honeybee colonies, are entirely temporary and die off completely every single year, except for a small number of new queens that survive winter in hiding to start fresh colonies the following spring. This means every YellowJacket nest reaches its largest, most aggressive, most populous size in late summer and early fall, right as colonies are nearing their natural end and competing for dwindling food sources, which is precisely why stinging incidents spike dramatically during outdoor gatherings, picnics, and yard work in those exact months. The aggression isn't random. It's a predictable, seasonal surge tied directly to a colony's biological clock running out, and it means the most dangerous time to disturb a hidden nest is also the time people are statistically most likely to be outside doing exactly that. The YellowJacket doesn't need exotic venom or rare habitat to earn its place among the most consequential stinging insects in the country. It simply needs to be common, hidden, and easily provoked, a danger built entirely out of proximity and probability rather than rarity. And somewhere out there, another creature is waiting with a threat built on neither size nor numbers, but on something far harder to see coming at all. You made it to the end of something most people never hear about until it happens to them. That already puts you ahead. Subscribe now, so the next hidden threat reaches you first, not as a headline, but as a warning you actually had time to act on.